So, a couple of nights ago, I saw Us. Us isn't a bad movie. It's... Now, when it comes to horror movies, I'm a huge, huge fan. I'm talking from the cheesiest movies like Friday the 13th,
Yo, man, it's cool, man.
to the masterpieces like The Thing.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
So going into Us, I had a few expectations. First, I knew it was from the director of Get Out. Sadly, I haven't seen this movie, so I can't compare them. I did want to see Get Out before I saw Us, I just never got around to it, and then I wanted to see Get Out before I did this review, but here we are. I hear Get Out is more a dark comedy and has a lot of funny elements to it, and is definitely a movie I want to see, I just sadly haven't got around to. So my expectation of going to this film is that it would be good and possibly have some humour. I hadn't seen any of the trailers, I just heard of the premise that it is about a family who then meets a doppelganger family, a family that looks exactly like them, identical to them. That was as much as I knew. So going in, I thought maybe it will be scary, maybe it will be funny, maybe it'll be creepy, or maybe it'll be completely terrible and the director was a one-hit wonder. Instead, I really got into this film. I love the first and second act of Us. I have a lot of mixed feelings. It was difficult to pinpoint what I feel of the movie. So people would ask me, oh, you saw Us? And then I'd be like, yeah, I did. They'll be like, what do you think? Was it good? And I'd be like, well, it wasn't bad. It was just weird. When people ask me, what do you mean by weird? It's hard to exactly say because I'm not saying weird's a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either. First, I do want to talk about the pros of this movie though, and some of the things it does expertly. Now quickly, my three favourite horror movies of all time are The Thing, Halloween and Aliens. Something that these three movies share, along with Us, is brilliant sound design and great use of music. Now for Us, it is more about how they implement the music in certain scenes and how it adds to them, but there are some great use of sound effects and weird noises that some characters make which really add to the tension of the scene. A lot like with Halloween, its soundtrack is brilliant and just adds the sense of creepiness and fear into you. Us is very similar in this case. Its main score is very creepy, and that's something I will give this movie, is it has a creepy vibe. However, there is some comedy sprinkled throughout the movie, but it's implemented very well. It never takes away from the scene or feels like the movie's just suddenly stopping and then the character makes a joke and you're just like, why are you making a joke at this point? Instead, it flows with the scene and it makes sense for the character to make a joke of the situation that he's been put in. It never once feels like, oh, that's just someone trying to write something to be funny. It feels like, no, that's something I could believe the character would say in that moment. Something else I want to commend the film on is its great performances. All of the actors did a fantastic job, including the child actors. Not only do they have to play themselves, but they have to play the antagonists of the movie, their shadow selves, who are very similar, but completely different characters. And then having the two parallels on scene together, threatening each other and scaring each other, and then having to fight each other, was done brilliantly. The first time the Shadow family is introduced, it is set up a bit cliche. The lights and the power go out and you're like, oh, here we go. But the way it is all used and how slow it is, and they do not rush into anything, was great. They really built up the suspense and tension in this scene, where the Shadow family just wasn't moving and there were these shadowy figures off to the distance. And then when they finally attack, it sends chills, especially with the use of the music. And the cinematography and some of the shots and angles used in this movie were really creative, especially at the very beginning of the movie with the little girl in the mirror room. And then later, when the family's on the beach, the camera slightly tilts, following them and also showing their shadows. This foreshadowing what is to come later in the movie. Jordan Peele is a fantastic director, I can't knock that. This film is definitely well directed, and hearing how good Get Out was, I can't wait to go watch that. However, there are some negatives with this movie that left me just not sure on how I felt. Whenever I would ask anybody what they thought of the movie, they would just reply, yeah, it was okay, it wasn't bad, it was just weird. And there's a big reason for this. A lot of weird things have gone down, and by the third act you're expecting some answers. Instead, a lot of it is kept ambiguous, and this is a big problem. I'm not against having ambiguous storylines or leaving things to the imagination. I'm actually a big supporter of that. That's something I actually love in film. However, there's a big plot point that is just left ambiguous and given no answers, and it leaves you wondering why. It leaves people confused and being like, well, if it happens to this person and that person, does it happen to everyone? And if it happens to everyone, then why is this? And then who made it? And loads of questions come up, and you're just sitting there thinking about all these questions, and the movie isn't about that. I know a lot of people argue, well, the movie doesn't focus on that, and I think that's fair. However, it gets in the way of what the movie is trying to tell. So I feel like they should have acknowledged it, or maybe explained that it's just this town, or maybe the entire world. This is something that's sadly not explained, and left me asking too many questions. There's a slight plot twist which is kind of set up early on, which I did see coming, but was hoping they would leave it ambiguous. Sadly, they didn't here. I can't get into exactly what that is without spoiling the movie, but it's something I wish they'd just left unanswered and left people thinking for like 30 or 40 years, just like Thing does. Instead, they gave us the answer, and personally, I thought it was a bit stupid and didn't really add much. If they'd left it unanswered, I think it would have added a lot more to the movie and had people questioning the right questions. Sadly, I left the movie not underwhelmed, not like I hadn't had a good time, because I did enjoy Us. Us is definitely something you can enjoy. It's creepy, has a couple funny moments, and if you don't go in it too critical, you can just enjoy it for what it is. Don't get me wrong, I love horror movies, and this is definitely a breath of fresh air to the genre. And I do not want Jordan Peele to stop. I want him to keep going. Not every movie can be perfect, there's always going to be problems, but overall, I definitely think this is a film I will enjoy watching again, and I plan to watch it again. But sadly, that one plot point is something I don't think will ever be answered. Maybe it doesn't need to be. Again, this is my personal opinion, and it's just how I feel. And speaking to a lot of other people, they seem to feel the same. But I really do want to applaud Jordan Peele. He is bringing something to the horror genre, he's doing new things. And sadly, the horror genre is something that is just ignored or filled with a bunch of trash, to be honest, these days. I'm a huge supporter of horror movies, and I'm glad Jordan Peele is making these different, weird, question-asking movies. Overall, I think Us was a great time, a really great concept, and mostly executed very well. Sadly, it was just the third act which let it down for me. Us isn't bad, it's just weird.